Welcome to Coast View, the show that every single day celebrates from right here in the Coast View studio in beautiful coastal Mississippi, this amazing place, and the people who work so hard to make this such a great place to live, work, and play. We've got a very special guest coming up. I want to share with you a quick quote. This is actually from Laurel Clark, who is an astronaut and medical doctor. And it was said on the Space Shuttle Columbia, and it's very short and sweet, but it's very powerful. And this is the quote: "Life is a magical thing. Life is a magical thing." Um, I agree. Every day I'm trying to figure out how I can make another impact. And while I took a little bit of time off when I retired, and I still consider myself retired, I still am looking for ways to make an impact. There's so much magic in our lives, and the thought of not giving back and not sort of reinventing yourself in a way that can take advantage of that magical thing. I pity people who don't have that frame of mind. Every day is a new day. Every day is a great opportunity to leave a legacy, which kind of brings me to my first guest today. I had a conversation with Paige Roberts and this week, actually, and Paige said, and during that conversation about the mayor of Moss Point, Billy Knight, she said this about him: that Knight's energy and passion for his beloved River City is contagious. I struggle to keep up with him, she said. He's a gentleman's gentleman with a sharp mind and an even sharper suit. I thought that is just a perfect quote to describe Billy Knight. And without any further ado, let me switch over to my friend Billy Knight and say, how are you doing, Mayor?
Oh, Rick, I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me on your program, man. I've been looking forward ever since Paige told me she had that conversation. But now she didn't tell me about that quote you just quoted her on. I appreciate her making those comments, but I've been excited about talking with you, man. I thought I knew you, Rick, but now I know I did because we go back a ways.
Yeah, we do. Well, look, I told you, I first came to know you on your long-running TV show on WLOX. And I remember the first time that I sort of ran across. I mean, I was a kid. I guess it's okay to say your age. You're 82 years old, and I'll come back to that in just a second.
Right.
But you were such your demeanor, your voice, your articulation, your thoughts about the community. You were so wise even in those days, and it struck me. So I found myself watching you on a regular basis, and then I became publisher of the Sun Herald after a long career at the Sun Herald, and our paths crossed along the way there as well. And I've just always known you to be such a charismatic, gentle man. And here you are at the age of 82. You've reinvented yourself about 1,000 times in your life, and you're back again in the role as mayor. And there's no stopping you, is there?
Well, man, God has blessed me with good health, Rick, and that's I have to give Him the praise and the glory because that's why I'm here. I got good health, and of course, Rick, I have retired, and I was able to help build our church at St. Peter's Catholic Church. I was project manager for that, and once I got through with that, I didn't have anything else to do. Now, Rick, I ran for this job 3 times, and I finally was able to win this time. And Rick, I ran because I always thought I could make a difference because of the experience that I've had accumulated over the years with my administrative background. I just felt like, I could make a difference. So, much is given, much is required.
Well, our paths crossed in Loosedale once. Tell me, do you remember that?
Oh, yes, indeed, Rick. And that's why I said when I saw you, I thought I recognized the name, but then I said, let me put a face to that name. And now, yes, Rick, I remember I was in Loosedale, Mississippi, running a Head Start program, and you brought your team to Loosedale to speak to the Rotary Club, of which I was a member, and you talked about starting some description in Loosedale, Mississippi, and I was sitting there in the audience, and that's, you were a very young man at the time, and you had a lot of energy and a lot of fire in you and a lot of ideas, and I learned a lot from you, Rick, just about the publishing business, just about listening at those conversations. So, yes, I remember going back then, and I always thought a lot of you then, Rick, and I think a lot of you now. I wondered what had happened to you. Now I know.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Mayor. It means a lot coming from you. It really does. You heard what Paige said. I mean, she said you're a gentleman's gentleman with a sharp mind and an even sharper suit. And look at you for the radio audience. You can go to Facebook or YouTube and take a look for yourself. But where did that dapperness come from?
Well, Rick, it really started at an very early age at home with my mother and father. You know, my mother and father, we didn't have a lot of resources, but my mother was always concerned about our appearance, what we look like. And her thing is that, you know, you don't have to have a lot of money to be clean and to have nice clothing. And so when we went out, you know, my sister and brother, when we went out, she made sure that we were always dressed appropriately. And she spent money that she probably could not even afford just to make sure that our appearance was of something that could be accepted out in the communities. So Rick, I just kept that, man. And even when I was off in college, when I would come home in the summer, I worked at a clothing store, Fine Brothers Madison, that was in Hattiesburg. They allowed me to start sweeping the floors, taking out trash, and I worked myself up to work in the men's department. By the time I was a senior in college, I was working selling clothes in their men's department, and I got a liking for that. And of course I wanted to be in that men's store because I could get clothes at a discount, and so I could still wear good clothes and not have to pay the maximum for it. And fast forward, in '74, I opened my own men's store. So I had my own clothing store in 1974 that stayed there for what I was at 8 or 10 years before Hurricane Frederick, you know, wiped us out, and I came back and it wiped me out again, another hurricane. So I went to work at the community college. And that's kind of how I got, but that's how I came. We could start with my mother and father, making sure that we look decent when we go outside.
Gene Ward, you knew Gene Ward, didn't you?
Yes, I know Gene. Yes, matter of fact, I went to Gene when I was trying to get money to open. I went to Gene a many times just to talk to him and look how he had his store laid out. I went to him many times to talk about men clothing.
Well, Gene Ward, as you know, in the past year passed away. God bless him. But
Yes.
one day I'm going to focus on him a little bit more. The work that he did in the community over so many years was really incredible. But Warren's Menswear at Edgewater Mall, that's where I learned how to dress. And I used to spend a lot of time there with Woods and you know, getting fitted and buying my suits, and it was really important to me to learn how to dress right. And I give Gene and Woods, and I think David Edwards and others who worked there. Of course, Brent came along as he got a little bit older. They just influenced me so significantly. And sounds like your menswear store had the same impact on you.
Exactly. You know, it's the kind of thing that, you know, when they wrote the book Dress for Success, you know, I've been doing that for 50 years. Dress for Success, you know, because my mother saying if you look right, then you're going to get a certain amount of respect.
Yeah.
You know, so I always realize that if I'm dressed properly and people see me that way, then they're going to give me a little bit more respect. They're going to give a little bit more attention. And then they may let me in the room. They may allow me to say something. And if I say something, then I gotta have something to say if they allow me to do that. So this dress thing has all been about me moving forward, starting with getting some attention with someone, looking the part, acting the part. And then once they ask me to come in the room, then I need to have something to say. And I've always tried to prepare myself for that.
Well, that's clear. That's clear in all your iterations throughout your life. And it's amazing to me that at the ripe young age of 82, you find yourself the mayor of Moss Point. One of the reasons I love doing this show, and I say it a lot, but it's the opportunity to focus on people like you, because what I've said about the crop of mayors that we've got now across the coast is that none of them, I mean, someone said to me a long time ago that if a public official runs for an office and sees getting elected as a promotion in life, look out. What you really need is seasoned people who've done their work, have made sort of their living or whatever they're going to do in life. And then they decide sort of toward the end of their life to be to come back to public service. And we've got a crop of leaders that were very successful business people all across coastal Mississippi, and they're focused on one thing: building better communities. And they don't have pride of ownership. They're just trying to bring the people together to do the best that they can do. The other thing that I enjoy is focusing on people like Paige Roberts and others like her, Adele Lyons from the Coast Chamber, and Tish Williams at the Hancock Chamber. The role that chambers play today are so modified from where it was in the old days. I mean, they're involved in community building now, community development. They're involved in developing great relationships with people. And I've loved watching the relationship between you and Paige and then Jalen Morris evolve. And your role there. And we're coming to the end of this segment, but when we come up on the other side, I want you to talk about why that's important to you, because it's really cool to see these entities collaboratively working together to build a great city, and the opportunities for Moss Point going forward are truly incredible. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Mayor Billy Knight from the city of Moss Point. Welcome back to Coast Vue. I have Mayor Billy Knight from the city of Moss Point with us. And incidentally, in the second half of the show today, we'll be visiting with the Secretary of State, Michael Watson, and talking about coast issues and all of that. He visited with me recently on my SuperTalk Outdoor show. And man, is he a dedicated leader focused on doing what's best for the state. So we'll look forward to visiting with him here shortly. But coming back to Mayor Billy Knight, we talked about this relationship that you and Paige Roberts has. And then has a new employee there that he's 26 years old. His name is Jalen Morris. She thinks the world of him and likes the developing relationship between you and Jalen. We'll come back to that piece of it here in just a second. But the role that you think about running a city, and for people who don't get this, I feel sorry for them. The role in a city is a collaborative effort. It really is. It takes a lot of people working together, but there's a very special relationship that you've developed with Paige Roberts is important, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But Rick, let me mention this to you before we talk about that. When you get Secretary Watson on the line, ask him about when the first time he came on my program, Coastal Views. He reminds me all the time that I had him on my show when he was 15 years old.
Wow.
He remembers that. So bring that up if you have time to mention it.
I will, for sure. I will.
Friend, and he always reminds me and any audience that we're in, he brings up the fact that Billy Knight had me on TV when I was 15 years old.
I'll remember that. I will mention that for sure. You'll have a chance to say hello to him shortly. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. That relationship with Paige, man, it started just because, I just knew that the city needed to be involved with the chamber. I did not have any idea it was going to develop to what it is now. And the way it developed, Rick, is because we do not have a public relation person at this moment. And I was trying to hire one. We didn't have a lot of money. And we've been advertising for that job, but we still have not found anyone that would work for us for the amount of money we had. So Paige says, I'll do it for you because I know how bad you need it. And I said, wow, you will? She said, yeah, but I'll also have my team to work with you. So Paige, we took on that task, and I was grateful and surprised that she would do it. And of course, you have Jalen working with our Facebook side and doing all our videos, and you have Taylor is doing our website. And Paige is counseling me and giving me all kind of advice because she worked in the business before, and I believe in her abilities, and I have confidence in what she can advise me on. So that relationship has grown because of that. And Jalen, the relationship that I'm developing with Jalen is because I think Jalen 26, 27 years old. So when I was campaigning, I talked about having young people around me because I want to have that perspective of what young people think, what they want downtown, what do they think the city ought to look like. Because as we reimagine downtown, we got to think about young folks that's going to be moving here. I got to give people reasons to want to move to Moss Point. So I got to ask young people, what do you think? And then outside of that, Rick, it's for a selfish reason. It keeps me young being around those young folk. They keep me on my toes and make me think in that direction because I can talk to them and I can hear how they're thinking, they're communicating, and it only helps me.
I think it's cool that you and Jalen are going to start a podcast together. We don't have time to talk about it right now, but what I'm going to do is schedule for the two of you to be on Coast Vue with me, so we can talk specifically about the podcast and the goals, and just share stories with each other. I look forward to visiting with the two of y'all at the same time. That ought to be cool. Hey, so let's go. One of the things that Paige and others have helped me really understand is that the I-10 corridors from Moss Point have within them unbelievable opportunity, because you think about people coming in from Alabama. It's really the first stop. You got to be excited about that opportunity.
I am, Rick. I during the campaign, I talked about how that north of I-10 was our growth area, and that we need to do everything we could to get the resources to develop that area with infrastructure, get it ready for that growth. And that's what we're doing now. I think the leaders in the past maybe didn't put as much attention because the resources wasn't here. And now, because of the BP money and the ARCA money, we have an opportunity now to hopefully get some resources in here that would help us get the infrastructure that is needed up there. But you're talking about a game changer, man. If we could just get that going, the opportunities there that we get traffic coming out of Mobile, we get traffic going into Mobile or going into New Orleans. They got to come through us going to New Orleans. They got to come through us going to Florida. If we could just get some business out there, man, it could be a life changer for Moss Point.
I've talked to the Lieutenant Governor and the Speaker of the House about this, the opportunities with the Gulf Coast Restoration Fund specifically as it relates, this is the BP money, that we should be spending that money on transformational projects, not one-time build a building that doesn't have really an economic payback to it. I think those things need to be done. But what the BP money, I think, was intended, and certainly the bill reads this way, was to create sort of an investment in something that's going to pay back for many, many years to come. I think we kind of stumbled a little bit in the beginning. We got a little bit more refined. We've got 14 or 15 more years to get this right. And I think we got to get it right. And this kind of project that you're doing on I-10 is the kind of project I'm talking about, is creating a funding mechanism that enables the kind of economic development that's going to have transformational economic payback. And that's what it should be used for. And I'm thrilled that you guys are really working hard in that area.
Rick, I look at this as, I'm planting a tree. You might have heard the story, Rick, that I'm planting a tree that I may not even sit under. And that's what this thing on I-10 for me is, that I want to help build the infrastructure so that generations after I'm gone will benefit from what I'm doing. Because that's what we got to do. We got to start. Sometimes leaders don't do something because they want to get credit for it. But Rick, I'm not here to get no credit for nothing. I'm here to get things started so that someone that come after me hopefully will keep it going, and generations after we're gone will benefit from it. So it's like planting a tree for me that I will never sit under, but kids that come after me, they would enjoy the shade that come from that tree.
I think that's such a beautiful way to say it. I've said on my show many times, the way that the older folks in coastal Mississippi may remember Moss Point because of the smell of the paper mill. Okay. Right. That's long since gone. And what has evolved is more awareness of it as this river city. I mean, one of the most beautiful waterfronts here in coastal Mississippi is right there in Moss Point. When you think about the opportunities for the downtown area, the opportunity to sort of change the image of Moss Point, I had a great conversation with Woody Bailey from Cruising the Coast, and just before he was going to come on my show live from downtown Biloxi, and he had just left Moss Point, where all the cruisers were there. And it was just so exciting. He talked about someone who owned a business, that his business was up 5 times greater than normal. But he was just he was blown away with how well it went off, and an incredible impression that it made on people. That is not unusual. That for people who have not been to Moss Point in a while, who go there and see it for themselves, they're blown away. And when you see it, you have to think, wow. I mean, when you add it all together with the redevelopment authority and all the things that you guys are going to be doing, it's got to be exciting to you.
Yeah, it is. I'm so fortunate to be in this position to try to help bring all that forward. Rick, when Mr. Bailey came over here, he came to my office to say hello and to meet me for the first time. I carried him out on the balcony, Rick, and he was able to look over the crowd from the balcony of City Hall, and he were blown away as to what we have here. Downtown Moss Point Riverfront is a diamond in the rough. Rick, there's no other city. I say that, I might be wrong about it, Rick, but I'm gonna say it anyway. There is no no city on the coast that have a waterfront as beautiful as we have right downtown.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Rick, we have not taken advantage of that, Rick. We gotta take advantage of that, Rick, because there's so much opportunity just around the waterfront that we have not taken advantage of. And Rick, I want to be to take advantage of that while I'm here, man, because that is an opportunity within itself for downtown Moss Point. So I want to reimagine what we have downtown, Rick, so we can really develop that like it ought to be.
Well, what's interesting, Woody told me about standing there on that balcony with you and that perspective that he had and his impression of that. It really made a tremendous impression on him. But what I love about what's happening in coastal Mississippi, whether we're talking about Waveland's efforts or Bay St. Louis or Ocean Springs or Gulfport, we just had a great conversation about what's happening in Gulfport or Biloxi. Moss Point is not unlike the rest of them in terms of opportunity, in terms of this really dogged determination to grasp its special sense of place. See, each community of coastal Mississippi has a very unique sense of place, and the collection of these communities together make up coastal Mississippi. And that's why this is such a great place to live, because and that's why people like visiting here. It's a big metropolitan area with this very small town feel. It's got a little bit for everybody. And for downtown Moss Point, the river city, it has just tremendous potential. Mayor, last word as we're coming to the end of this segment.
Yeah, Rick, what we got to do is identify who we are and what we want to be, because that's what every city, like you say, is kind of unique in its own way. And Moss Point have to identify who we are and who we want to be, and then we need to market that. That image is all a part of that. I have to give people a reason to want to come to Moss Point, Rick.
Well, Mayor, you're the right man for the job, and I'm delighted to see someone of your ripe young age tackling such an incredibly important task. And we'll stay in touch with you. I look forward to having you and Jalen Morris on real soon. So until then, we'll see you soon, my friend.
Thank you so much, Rick. It's good to see you again, my buddy.
It's been a pleasure. When we come back, we have the Secretary of State. See you after this break.